Okay, so I have the next 2 days off, I think. Um, and I got the items and the tooltips into a better spot, I think. So, and this is kind of the beginning of the crafting window. So the plan is I want to expand on this crafting implementation. Tooltips, still function as normal. I just got kind of the spacing and alignment. It's still not perfect, but the spacing and alignment for where the text and stuff displays is it's consistent, and I think it's okay where it's at now. I also had to resolve the issue of for example, the 10% increased cast power here was a local variable, so it should only affect the stats on the fishing pole itself, and then those should be added to your character when equipped. So if you look, your cast power is here 0, and it is actually 22. The issue I was having is the 10% increased cast power was inventory item, equipable item. So your cast power is a base attribute on the weapon, and the 10% increase was the item affix. So I didn't understand that lists were reference type or something along those lines. So when I would modify the objects in the list, basically how I was signing them is I was just doing this part. So the attribute list on each individual item was referencing the same base attributes. So any local variables that I had that would modify it on all items. And my handle local modifiers, this block of code here would be run and each source, since each item source was different, it wouldn't remove. This was like me trying to fix it, so I don't know. This is probably not final implementation here, but basically every time a new item would spawn, it would run this block of code and add the local modifier to the same list of attributes, or the same referenced attribute in the list, because of how I was assigning it. So I went to ChatGPT and tried to resolve that issue, and basically made me aware that lists were reference types. So this is some manner of creating a deep copy, was the terminology used, whereby I set my base attributes and I go through the original list and I select each attribute in the list here and I assign it to this, and then I create a new attribute of the attribute type of that attribute and the attribute base value of that attribute, and the same can be done for any list here. So item affixes now as well. So this should resolve that issue moving forward, I think. The tooltip, basically I spent a lot of time to end up in a very similar to have a very similar representation of the text and stuff on the tooltip, but I was adding, deleting, padding, blah blah blah, and basically just trying to figure out a more concise system of how I want things to display, and this ended up looking very similar to how it was originally, but a little more consistency. I extracted these methods, so this line of code looks a little cleaner. Makes it a little more annoying to modify, but it's okay. This crafting window over here, I did a couple things. One is the highlighter is the same highlighter, and you can see over here it's using the item's height and width, and over here it just uses the grid height and width, and then this grid is of type craftable, grid type craftable, which is just a enum I have. So over here, these are equipable. This is inventory, and this is craftable. So you can put it in, and to get this item to show up in the center, the direct center, that was something I had to figure out. It added lines of code to Greg's grid inventory system. So, for example, place item to craft. I just created this new method here, and that just takes in an inventory item. Very similar to the place item, except for I'm setting every slot. This is I think a 3x5 grid inventory. As it, if you can imagine over here, 3x5 would be this kind of block over here. This is a 3x5, so when I set an item here, I just set every grid to that item instead of just the space that it takes up, which is essentially this item is taking up now all of the spaces in the grid. But that allows me to swap items. Excuse me. And I think this functionality should work for now. It feels weird for me to just plug in new lines of code into this other guy's system. It feels a bit janky, especially because I'm essentially using this grid inventory system now as 3 separate instances of an inventory or in different interfaces. So I think ideally I would probably do this item grid maybe as an abstract class or an interface, and have different implementations here on the inventory or equipment or crafting, because I'm also going to have, well, the storage should essentially just be an inventory. So I don't know, I'm worried. I don't like doing this stuff because I feel like I should be kind of I don't know if that would qualify as encapsulating, but I feel like I should be separating this logic instead of just having all of these possibilities here in the item grid. But I don't think I will expand it too much. And I don't intend on having trade, so this might be it. If this is it, then, okay. Just these 3 types, but anyway. All of these things now work, and I can put an item in here, and then all I need is, I just need, item stats down here and some crafting implementation, and I already have add affix, remove affix here, which should not be on here, right? Yeah. So I'll just need to plug in some code here and then access that from when I implement the crafting system. So hopefully that goes smoothly. If that goes smoothly and I can get that done, and I have time, then the next step, I think I'll move on to doing a skill system, and have different skills. I really would like to get on top of the save load system before things get too complex, because I'm not really sure how it's going to work, and I'm worried that I'll have too many things in here and it'll feel too overwhelming, and I'll want to just start over and with implementing a save load system. But we'll see how that goes. Everything I have implemented here, I think it's done in a decent way. So if I do have to, start over with save load in mind, then I don't think it'll be too bad. Over here, I do have, you can see kind of behind, a little crafting bench. So ideally, when you are here and you interact with this, it'll show this window. But that stuff was, that won't be too bad to implement, I think. So anyway, that's the plan for the next 2 days. Do something with the crafting system and then move on to skill system. And then pretty close to getting the fishing system in. I already have the fish spawning. They're not there now, but because I turned them off because I was working on other things. But and then my implementation of a fishing system in the previous iteration of the game is going to pretty much be similar to what I think the final product will be. So implementing that won't be it should be pretty smooth. I should be able to get it working pretty much the same, and then be able to catch fish and all that. So so that's the plan. So once I have skill system, crafting system, catching the fish, you level up, you have skill points. Those would be pretty much the baseline systems. The other thing will be a fishing log, which I don't think that'll be too bad, but fiddling around with the fine details and getting that to a place where I'm happy with, excuse me, will be another project. So after those, after all that's done, it'll be save load for sure. If not before, preferably before, but if I could get all those in, then I can feel pretty comfortable with having a game. Ideally, the save load system will make scene transitions and transitioning scenes more doable or possible, or at least allow me to implement them. And then, yeah, I think I'll be in a pretty good spot there. So we'll see how all that goes. It's hard to tell if this move speed is actually... I think it is. That looks a little faster. So anyway, that's the before, and later today maybe I'll do another video, or tomorrow if I'm making good progress, and with a follow-up. Okay, bye.